like when you get done with green team as a student, you're kind of like a Padawan, whatever it is before, and you eventually become a Jedi, right? But if you go to green team as an instructor and you come out, you're like a Jedi master.
Wow.
It is that much of a difference.
If you could give a tip, 3 tips to an up-and-coming guy who's coming through green team right now that could pave the way for his furtherment of his career, what would you say?
I'd say keep your mouth shut and ears open. There's tons of all these badasses, especially in the lower management and mid-management that you can learn from. If you have an ego, you're already gone. You should have gotten dropped in green team, right? But if you made it through and you had this ego, now you think you can spread your wings. You know, when you get to your squadron, you're going to get, because you still have a year on probation, you know. So just learn as much as you can. Learn everything. Watch your senior leaders. See how they act. See how they get things done. That's the biggest thing, is how do they get things done?
There's nothing wrong to be humbled in a training environment, because to me, that's when the wheels should fall off, per se. You know, you're honing the steel at that point in time, or iron sharpening iron, however you want to look at it. So thank you for that, you know, seriously.
Yeah, no, that's definitely ditto on that one. Amazing. Welcome back to CF Podcast, guys. Kaya here with Jason.
What's going on, folks?
And we've got Jim Foreman. Jim, welcome.
Hey, man.
Good having you here. Now, if you guys don't know about Jim Foreman, he's got a pretty good background. He's currently in a civilian world. You operating a company. It's called Active Crisis. But before we get there, go ahead and tell us about yourself. I know some folks know you from our Active Crisis videos that we did with Jason. I think 4 or 5 videos. They've gotten to see you, but you know, there's always going to be those folks who don't know you. So, Jim, go ahead and tell us about yourself.
Yeah. Just retired from the Navy in 2018. I did 27 years in Navy SEALs. 20 of those was at SEAL Team 6. And now I currently work at Faro Concepts, which is a great company, great gear. And I also have a company called Active Crisis Consulting.
Gotcha. So you were with the Navy for 27 years?
Correct.
So 27 years SEAL teams, and then the 20 years in SEAL Team 6.
Right. I started off at SEAL Team 1 on the West Coast. And screened for 6, went to Green Team, made it through, and then did the rest of my career there.
Gotcha. Okay. And you are currently with Faro Concepts, which is, I mean, they got awesome stuff.
Awesome kit.
Like the
phenomenal kit.
What was that, Bison?
Bison belt,
Bison
FCPC V5.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go on for days.
Yeah. I do have the Bison belt that I got from you. I got that sling. Slingster sling is awesome that I got that on my PDW. But the belt, man, we're going to talk about all this stuff, but the belt is incredibly slim profile, super comfortable. Awesome. And you're with Active Crisis.
Correct.
And Active Crisis is, I know we did some stuff with you guys. You guys are providing consulting on security stuff.
Yeah. So we do red teaming. We do tailored training for police, for civilians, for corporations, and do security analysis.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm going to dive deep on Active Crisis a little bit, because that's what you do right now. But let's talk about a little bit about your history. 27 years in the Navy SEAL teams, and 20 of those in the SEAL Team 6. Now, a lot of guys know, obviously, Navy SEALs. We first of all, a bunch of badasses, awesome. Love those Patriots. We've seen a lot of videos on the internet, the movies, all that stuff. I want to talk about the SEAL Team 6, because I feel like, Jason, what do you think? A lot of people don't know.
They don't know because you guys have such a closed-knit community, and we talk about white side SEALs versus people who are actually placed in a Tier 1 unit. You spent 20 years at being the tip of the spear. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, 20 years in there. So,
wow.
Okay, so SEAL Team 6 guys are normal. I don't want to say normal, but Navy SEALs. Even a normal Navy SEAL is a badass dude, right? Those guys get selected to be the 1%er SEAL Team 6, right?
Correct.
How does that work?
Yeah, so basically, when I was going through, you had to have at least 3 platoons before you could screen to go to 6. Now I believe it's 2 platoons, and a platoon getting through is about 18 months of work, work up and then a deployment. So you had to have some experience with you. And with that experience and your reputation, you would be allowed to screen. And, if you're already knocked off the list if you had these things against you, like some issues, DUI or any integrity issue, right? So that was already a no-go. So they would only, your SEAL team would recommend you.
Oh.
So top 1% or even less than that would be allowed to screen. And then your names go up to the guys at the command. And then that goes through a list of like, hey, who's good to go and who's not. So if somebody's already there that knew you from your last team and they thought that, hey, this guy quit on an op, whatever, then you would be blacklisted.
Wow.
So your reputation carries over. You'd have to have those guys that are ranking you would have to have a good reason.
Right.
There'd have to be some backup to it.
So it's like being drafted almost.
It is exactly a draft. That's what we call it.
Right.
So what I'm saying is that you would screen,
Right.
and if you screen positive, your name would go to the guys at 6.
Okay.
And that would be like a peer eval from guys that may have already known you.
Wow. Okay, so you get drafted, some names are put in a pool, and then within that pool of recommendation, like less than 1% of those SEAL teams, then there's a selection of those guys.
Right. Then you are selected to go to Green Team, which is their training program. And it's usually about 6-7 months. And you get there. It's usually maybe between 25 and 35 guys that start off. And it starts off with a physical test, right? A couple of those. And right off the bat, some guys fail that. It's amazing because all SEALs are really in good shape. So, but some guys may have injuries or, whatever it is. So if you get past the PT test, then you start the training.
All right. And I think that's a common misconception. People think that BUDS is it, right? They think that that's it, when that's truly only just the beginning and basically like a baseline. And then you guys go through all your other training, your SEER training, all this other stuff. And I mean, my mind just spins for that.
You think about it, like you said, BUDS, even BUDS, from what I hear, I have no experience, obviously. It's super hard to get through that and become a Navy SEAL. Then you got to go through your training over there, really earn your spot and all that stuff. That alone in itself is super tough.
Yeah.
And from those guys, less than 1%ers are recommended and drafted into this team, at the SEAL Team 6, the development group, right? And then from there, obviously there's going to be some attrition rate. What is that like?
It's probably 40%. It's pretty high at Green Team. So there's different things you're going through. Obviously, it's not like BUDS. It's a little bit different. It's a high end stuff. So you already expect it to be a good shot, all that stuff. But it's high end. You're being watched for everything, and the training. So the guys that do the worst are the CQB instructors, the RSOs that already have a baseline, right? That I think a little bit of his ego, that they already know what's going on. So what they tell you is like, hey, whatever you know, forget about it.
Right.
We're going to go through just walking in a 2-man entry for CQC with pistol, and you go super slow, and you're going to get all these basics down, right? So they say, hey, go slow. We're not going to like hold your hand. But if you go fast on those days and you get a couple of performance violations or safety violations, you're already going to be on the ticket of, hey, watch out for this guy. And then a week later, you're picking it up.
All right.
So if you don't take their advice and go slow and just drop everything you know and just really work the basics, how they want you to work the basics, you're going to fuck up. Because once you start going fast, you can't go back.
Right.
Because they don't slow down for you. So if you aren't keeping up, they drop you.
Right.
So it's really important to really go slow, pretend like you're not a 10-year veteran of the SEALs, and that you're learning something from scratch. Because they want to teach you a very efficient way to do things, and safety is paramount, because pretty soon you'll be going live fire, dual entries, multiple entries. We call them blue on blues, where you do see one of your guys down the hallway, but you're not going to shoot them just because of your IDing your threat, right? But they don't want to have
rounds.
What's that?
Live rounds.
Yeah, you'll have blue on blues. Some of them are on accident. Some of them are on purpose.
Wow.
A blue on blue in training is probably the best way to get rid of those guys, because if you shoot around a paint round at one of your guys, you are obviously going way too fast.
Right.
And they'll set that up on purpose before they go live. Because the idea is not to go live fire blue on blue.
Yeah.
But sometimes in the real world, you do have blue on blues.
And I think we had that great instance when you guys we were taking the training. It was one of the, combatants. I'm just like, shit. Okay, well, hold on. Wait a second. You got to start thinking. So I feel that, especially.
You got to ID, because even with you're working with a partner force, they don't look like you. They wear different uniform. They may have AKs, right? Because you're not going to give them your weapons usually. You're working with a partner force. You have to ID your threat.
Yeah.
Know your people.
Yeah. So no, that's very good. So when you got to, obviously you got drafted into SEAL Team 6 and you got to Green Team. What are some of the, if any, what are some of the things that surprised you there that you thought maybe you're good to go, but then you're there with the top tier guys? What kind of experience was that?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So the first thing I recognized, because there's guys that they're badasses, right? They're there, there's two things I recognized. Number one, I was walking, to lunch or whatever, and I see these 5 guys walking towards me, and they're like, guys that have been there for a while. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm a new guy. And these guys, they walk past me, and there was no ego. There was like, hey man, you just get done with the Green Team? I'm like, yeah. And then there's like, hey, what squadron are you going to? And I go, hey, this guy's the same squadron as you. Come on, let's go have lunch together. So it was like, they understood that, hey, if you were vetted through Green Team, they trusted the process.
Right.
Like the instructors, they knew the instructors.
Yeah.
So when you get the list of 25, 30 guys, and you're getting another drafted to what squadron you're going to, they choose, right? And you may be the top guy, but you may not be the number one pick, because they're also going to pick personality for the squadrons. So there's more to it. So that was the number one thing, is like ego is low, which I really like. There's no like pounding your chest saying, hey, new guy, get over here. Because you did have, like for me, I think I had 6-7 years in the SEAL teams, which didn't mean anything when I got there.
Yeah.
But it was nice not to be treated like a piece of shit. You still were a new guy,
Right.
but they gave you some respect for getting through Green Team, right? And then the second thing I noticed, I was one of the best shots at my last team, SEAL Team 1, pistol shot, right? Top 5, whatever. And then I remember we did it was a Friday, we were doing this major evolution. It was like a Rogers range.
Right.
I think we had 6 different lanes. And there was just teams, 5 to 7 guys of teams, right? And I was in this team of 7 guys. And your job was to, it was all timed, was that when all the targets pop up, like 7 different targets from like 7 meters to 21 meters, right? You would shoot all your rounds, right? So you want to get all the targets. And if you got all the targets, you could reload and keep shooting. The point was to get through all these cycles, like, I don't know, maybe 100 targets, right? So the moment that you missed, you would stop. So let me back up. So you'd shoot like 1 mag.
Right.
And the moment you missed, you'd walk off. And then the next guy would run up and start shooting. So hopefully you would get all your targets with your 1 mag, right? And then you move on. So what I noticed was like, I was one of the best shots at Team 1, and I get there and I was like the worst shot. I was excited. I was like, holy shit.
Right.
Like I was topped out because there wasn't that many people better than me. So that was where I ended up. Like if there was somebody a lot better than me, I probably would have moved up. And here there's 40 dudes and they're all better than me. I mean, their guns not even bouncing. They're doing multiple shots. They're nailing other targets. My first shot I took on a close target, like, I don't know, it was like a couple meters for the head plate. I missed.
Wow.
Because I was nervous. I was, I crunched the trigger. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
And so I was excited that, wow, everybody's good here. And
were you guys all shooting the same guns?
Yeah, 6 hour 226.
Okay.
Mark 25 for you folks.
Gotcha.
So the realizing that I was with these professionals that shoot every day, and they're training every day, and they're training hard, and they're not afraid to make mistakes and show their ass. Even the Master Chief is rolling in with us, right?
That's
so there's
awesome.
no more, hey, I'm a senior leader, I don't have to do this stuff. No, he's proven himself too. He's not afraid to get exposed, like miss a target or whatever
Right.
like that, because it's all training.
Right. And I think that's a big thing to talk about, like, because you see other branches, once you reach that upper echelon of seniorship or seniority, it depends also on who you're talking to. It seems like the guys in the teams kind of stick with the boys, and that's just what it is. Hey, I'm going to be qualified just with the boys, or I'm going to go along with them to keep the standards up. That really promotes the whole iron sharpens iron thing. And I guess to me that's profound in itself. So
Yeah, it's nice to see your senior leader with you,
mm-hmm.
shooting, making mistakes here and there, but also like he's not afraid of being vulnerable,
Right.
like missing a target. Like there's some guys that still do that. Like they'll back off. They go, yeah, I'm not going to do this.
Right.
I'm not going to climb anymore on our badass climbing wall because I don't want to look bad in front of the new guys.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But for us, like I'd rather see that guy climb and fall and whatever. Like he's trying and he's motivating me.
Yeah.
You know, so when the senior guys, like top 10, top 5, you know, and you're below him and you go, fuck, man, that guy's like 45 years old, you know, and he's fucking badass, you know.
Keeps the human element in it.
Right.
For sure.
And it carried seeing that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the first couple of weeks when I was in Gold Squadron carried me over to like when I became a senior leader.
Okay.
You know, it made me realize, okay, this is how I thought it would be. Like the senior guys are in it. They're whatever they're doing, the jumping, the driving, the
Right.
shooting, the diving, the more you do it, the better you're going to be.
Right.
So the senior you are, you should be pretty good still.
Right.
Even if you may not go to a 2-week jump trip or 3-week jump trip, but you definitely be there for, you know, a week and a half.
Right.
You know, because you've done so many of them. But if you stop showing up, that's where you start falling behind.
Got you.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go now that you mentioned a little bit. What did you do at SEAL Team 6? I mean, you were there for 20 years. What kind of jobs did you have?
Well, I was already a sniper, but I didn't go to the sniper
School.
I went to sniper school,
sniper
yeah.
school. Okay.
But so I was already a sniper at SEAL Team 1. So
Mhm.
I go to Green Team. Number one thing you're going to get is probably breacher, and that's what I got. And it was mostly mechanical. We did explosive. But the guys that don't want to carry on to be breachers are like handing you their equipment because they want to move to a different place, right? And then from about 3 years later, I got recruited into the sniper team.
Okay.
So that was awesome because that sniper team, that Gold Squadron sniper team, just like the other ones, it was nice because you were supposed to already be good at CQC, right? It wasn't just like, hey, you're a sniper, you don't have to enter buildings anymore. No, you want to get some of the better guys to move on because you're going to be working with just 4 to 6 guys.
Right.
So you may have to clear something with just 4 or 6 guys. So you don't want to send guys that are inept at CQC.
Right.
And there was a time where they did do that. And we could talk about that, like paying taxes.
Right.
You know, like sometimes people just look at their little, and this goes into corporate, you know, corporate world, right? Like you may have a department and you have a person that's not doing it well.
Mm-hmm.
And for the teams, you have to pay a tax every year. Like, hey, I got to give some guys to Black Squadron, to N5, Research and Development, to Green Team. So I got to get rid of 7 guys every year, something like that.
Wow.
And some people go, well, I don't want to give my best guys. So instead of getting this guy out of the Navy or out of the SEAL Team 6, pushing him somewhere else or a different department where he'd perform better, I'm going to pay a tax with him. So if you pay a tax with a guy that's not very good, and you're telling the other people that, hey, this is one of our best guys.
He's going to be the commit. So are you saying that you don't want to give up your best guy, you give up your mediocre guy, and he ends up going to become a leadership?
Well, yeah, because people receiving them thinks that he's a better guy, so they're going to put him in a leadership position.
That's crazy.
And sooner or later, that guy may bite you in the ass 8 years later.
Right.
Because he's making it. He's not doing CQC anymore. He was failing it. Now he may be the CMC of the squadron, you know, or he hated snipers or whatever it is. But like if he wasn't proficient at his job, he shouldn't be at that place, that tier 1 unit. Or he could work he could do something else. He could work in a department supporting the guys. You don't have to get rid of him. You just have to know his talent.
Like downgraded to Swick. No, I'm kidding. Those Swick guys, you said Swick guys are part of Dev Group, but they're support. Okay.
Well, we got support, right?
Okay.
So we got EOD, we got Swick, we got PJ, CCT, and they're all in a supporting role.
Right.
They're all badasses. You know, the Swick guys are definitely badasses, you know, when we do our boat drops. And they do that like nobody else. They don't understand how crazy it is dropping 2 boats out, over the water at
Right.
night.
Who are these Swick guys, for those who don't know?
So they're basically our boat drivers.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
So
So they go through their own pipeline. We go through BUDS. They go through their Swick school. And then they can screen also to make it over to 6.
Wow.
And also other units, NSW. And they're fucking really good at their job.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shout out to you, Trav. I know you wanted to hear that.
Is that a good thing? Did
He's a
somebody
Swick
tell you?
dude.
Did
He's a
somebody
Swick
tell you
dude.
that they're not support? They're like
No,
partisan things?
there's like this ongoing, like it's always like, I hate to say it, like a dick measuring contest, right? Like
Okay.
you just like you can be Ranger tab but not in Ranger bat versus
Right.
being a Swick dude. Are you guys really part of Dev Group? But you are, but it's a support role. It's
Yeah.
it's a whole inner.
Well, here's the thing.
echelon.
They also man all our heavy weapons on the
Okay.
boats
That's true.
and vehicles,
Yep.
right? So they also drive vehicles.
Okay.
So they man those things. So
They're not on the stack. They're not on the
They're
stack.
not on the stack, no.
Okay.
But because they don't go through green team, right?
Yeah.
They don't do that for their job. But
Yeah.
like when I was a CMC of Silver, I would bring the Swick guys with us to Afghanistan with us because they had the heavy weapons. I'd bring them for the blocking positions, stuff like that. The guys that knew their job,
Right.
right? So there's a place for them. There's a place for everybody.
Right.
You need to know your people. You need to know their skill sets. And, it's like that thing I talked to you about before, qualification versus capability.
That's right. And with that being said, let's slowly move towards that leadership stuff. So you were in SEAL Team 6, 20 years. You've done obviously the breacher, the sniper team. Then you moved up from there. I know you and I were talking about it off camera, and we can talk about it here too if you feel comfortable, that you moved up to the ranks to be the Master Chief, right?
Right.
So talk about that. How did that happen? And I want to talk about some leadership stuff that I really want to pick your brains on because you've done some incredible things, and you and I talked about off camera about these things, and it's mind blowing. And you don't have to talk about all of it, obviously the stuff that you feel comfortable talking about. But I really think people would appreciate kind of picking your brains, like us picking your brains on this leadership thing, because a lot of people call themselves leaders and not even close. It's something that you either have it in you or you don't. So go ahead and talk about that. So you became a Master Chief in the SEAL Team 6, and how did that happen? And then let's dive into some leadership stuff.
So it was a slow process for me. I really liked being at E5,
Okay.
for a long time because you got to do a lot of stuff and the war was going on. So I did not want to move up in rank at first, and a lot of guys didn't want to do that because they want to stay operational. Later, I became a team leader in the recce team, and then after that, I became a troop chief, which is a pretty badass position. You're running a troop of guys, a sniper team, and 2 assault teams.
20 guys or something?
Yeah, approximately.
Okay.
Usually about 22. So that was a great experience to do. I did 2 deployments as a troop chief, and then I ran green team. So I made Master Chief. I did green team for 2.5 years, which was a great experience. And that's so all this time I was watching the current leaders above me. And I saw some really good stuff. I saw some stuff that wasn't so good. And even guys that were solid still making mistakes. And, I learned a lot from these guys, right? And what I noticed was, like, if you're not making mistakes, you're not learning.
Right.
Right? So the biggest thing that you could have is experience. And the only way you could get experience is by making mistakes.
Right.
So if somebody's saying, it's just like the choreographing thing I think I talked to you about down in Atlanta,
Right.
was that when, I also did a tour at the Tradettes, ran green team. And the big thing we don't want to do is choreograph. Like some of the guys like to choreograph, especially on the regular teams. And that's not their fault. It's because they're getting picked at if they make a mistake, right? So the guys, naturally, the leaders that are running the platoons and the troops are like, hey, this is the scenario where there's a the guy on the right has a gun. There's a paper target, right? On the left is unknown, and then there's a hallway going straight ahead. There's a booby trap 2 doors down, right? So you're choreographing. But it doesn't, and you may ace that run, and everybody looks good. Nobody gets a tick mark. But what did that do to you? You know, so when I was over there at the trade, I was very interested to see, wow. So I would mix things up,
Right.
you know, like switch targets around. And a lot of the senior leaders got pissed off because their guys would mess up because you're expecting a guy with a gun, right? But that's not using your SOPs.
Right.
Like if you can't do that. You can't choreograph overseas.
Right.
Right? So why don't you just use your SOPs? What if the first guy that's supposed to enter is going to go right and somebody told him, hey, there's a shoot target on that right?
Right.
And then for some reason, the training cadre pulls him out, and now the number 2 guy is going in that position. And he was expecting something else, right? So now he's like, fuck, I don't know. Like, so you just stick to your SOPs.
Right.
Identify the threat, right?
Yeah.
Did they have a gun? You know, whatever. So that was a big thing for me to realize. It's like when I was running Green Team, we had to add 2 weeks to Green Team because things were getting dropped at the regular teams. The training departments were dropping things. And a lot of it was due to simplicity, that we didn't have a lot of senior leaders there. There wasn't a mentorship. At Damnick, there's a natural mentorship. You guys got there. It took like 8 years when I got there to become a team leader. And that's just in charge of 5 to 7 guys. So 8 years when I first got there. Now it's like 5 or 6, but it's still like a long time to be running around watching how senior people act and how the shoes that you need to fill. I think in the regular teams there's a lot of new guys, and they're trying to control things. And so instead of depending on the NCOs, they started to put out word like, hey, anybody can make a call, anybody could do this, which is true, but it should go through your NCO.
Right.
So, no, that's very good. So how did they pick leaders? Like they picked you and other leaders. What are they looking for when they make this decision?
They're looking for, definitely accountability. They're looking for experience. They're looking for how you relate to the guys.
Okay.
How well you speak, and what kind of fit you are with these guys. Right. If you're not a good fit, you're not going to be picked.
Do they ever poll the guys? Like, do they ever ask the guys before selection?
Yeah.
Actual guys, like actual operators. Do they ever talk to them before they select a specific leader, or the leader just shows up?
No. So to become a team leader, your squadron is picking your team leaders.
Right.
Okay. And a lot of times, that's why they send the best guys to Green Team. Because when you go to Green Team and you're instructing the Green Team students, you may know something from your squadron. When you go to Green Team, you're learning also from the other squadrons. And now you're doing this day in. You now become an instructor, right? So when you leave Green Team, you're like a Jedi. You know, like, well, I'll say this. Like when you get done with Green Team as a student, you're kind of like a Padawan, whatever it is before, and you eventually become a Jedi, right? But if you go to Green Team as an instructor and you come out, you're like a Jedi Master.
Wow.
It is that much of a difference. So when you come and now become a team leader, so they send their best guys to Green Team because they want to become team leaders.
Right.
And the guys that don't go to Green Team that also become team leaders are also solid as fuck, right? So they're handpicked. Like they don't pick you if you're not, just because you're outranked somebody, they don't have to pick you. So they want the right guy for the right job because you're going to be in charge of their lives, right? And the training, curriculum, and all that stuff. And they need leadership out of you.
Wow.
But the guys that come out of Green Team that are previous instructors now running, there is a difference. You know, their experience is a little bit higher than the guys that don't go to Green Team.
Wow.
Gotcha.
Being in the leadership role, how did it play out being the buffer between E to O? And when I say that is, you know, officers come in and have their grand ethos of what they want their whole platoon, squadron, you know, battalion, let's say, whatever you want to call it. They have this grand thing. And so you being the senior guy, you know, they've got to rely on you to kind of kick them into gear with what's going on and the team meshing and versus that. So how do you balance that kind of work-life ethic,
Yeah. So when the officers go through green team, they've already done, platoons in the regular teams.
Right.
And now they go through green team. And so the difference is when an enlisted guy gets done with green team, he's a new guy. Right. He's not in a leadership position.
Right.
He may have some jobs he has, like breaching or whatever it is. And he has responsibility, but he has 6 guys above him. Right. So he has time to make mistakes. He's being mentored by all those guys. He's being held accountable and all that stuff. An officer, when he goes to a green team, is immediately pushed into a leadership position. He's now the troop commander. Right. So he is with the most experienced guy, the troop chief, who's been there for at least 8 years, probably 10.
Right.
So he's been there for 10 years, and that's not including his time in the regular teams. So the most experienced guy in the troop is a troop chief.
Right.
And he's paired up with a brand new officer.
How do you feel about that? I'm just curious because I feel like, again, I don't know the dynamics, so you're the guy to talk about this, but a brand new officer, not knocking the guy down or anything, but brand new, just because he's an officer, he gets that position right off the gate. What do you think about that?
So number one, he's already ran a platoon or 2 platoons or something like that. So he already has some experience.
Okay.
Right. But he doesn't have the opportunity to learn like a new enlisted guy. He can have 5 years of learning, right? And getting counseled and getting talked to, hey, you fucked up, this and that.
Right.
The officer is now in charge, right? So he is accountable for that troop. That doesn't mean he's the most experienced guy in that troop.
Right.
That troop chief is the most experienced, and then the team leaders, and then the 2s and the 3s are all more experienced than the officer. But the officer is the one that's reporting up,
Right.
and he's getting things done. He's also getting things approved, so he is accountable. So the reason why it works, but it has to go this way, is that officer and that troop chief is like a marriage.
Right.
Like the officer is working with the troop chief. He's basically getting mentored by the troop chief.
Correct.
To fill those shoes. And when the officer understands that he's not really responsible for the training, the manning, and the discipline, right? He'll be aware of all that stuff, but he doesn't have to handle that stuff. He doesn't have to worry about so much the details of the tactics.
Right.
That the enlisted guys have that, and they'll brief him, and he could also have input on all that. But what his job is to be responsible for the whole troop, to briefing up and getting things that they need.
Right.
Also understanding assets. Like they need, just like the troop chief, but even more so the officer needs to know all the assets that they have available to them. Air assets, ground assets,
Right.
All that stuff.
Right.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I mean, looks like he's at least got some experience, but it's a little different dynamic. But when it comes to leadership, especially because there's different types of leadership. We're not working at a McDonald's, right? This is a super serious tier 1 unit that does some really crazy stuff. What are some of the leadership qualities that a leader in SEAL Team 6, a guy like in your position, need to have to be a successful leader?
They need to be competent at their job. And that goes for the officer especially, because when he steps in, everything he says, everybody's watching, right? Listening.
Right.
So that's why it's good to have that troop chief to help, to make sure that they talk first,
Right.
and they figure things out. And the O speaks. He has the last word usually, especially for an op, and he has his own place to speak. But what they're looking for is competency and integrity.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't want somebody they can't trust. You could be the best shot, and if you don't have integrity, they don't want you.
Right. Because normally when it comes down to like planning stuff, an officer's going to come to you and say, hey, build me a plan, and we'll talk about it. And then he'll be like, green light or no, right?
Right.
Like, yeah. So, I mean, I wouldn't say it's much more than a symbiotic relationship. You have to, the right hand can't do it without the left hand almost.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically something will come down the pipe, the troop chief and the O talk, and then if it's a go, if they decide that it's a go, the troop chief would tell the team leaders and the 2s, hey, we got this going on.
Right.
Give me a plan, and brief me back in an hour or whatever
Right.
it is. And they'll brief them back. The troop chief will like bless it or say, hey, no, we got to come from the east or whatever it
Right.
is. Like we have these parameters and these are our assets. This is what we're going to use. These are the risky parts. You know,
Right.
this is, so I want the team leaders. So there's a mentorship right there. The team leaders are
Right.
planning it with the 2s, the 3s, the breachers. The sniper team leader is huge in planning for the insert, the infill, the actions on, all that stuff.
Right.
And then when the troop chief approves that, they brief the O,
All right.
right? And the O gets the general
Grand.
overview,
Right.
And then it's kind of cool that, so the O is not briefing the op.
Right.
Every leader is briefing their portion of the op,
Mm-hmm.
right? So not just the team leaders, but the 2s, the 3s, the breachers, the JTAC, the CCT, the corpsman, medic, PJ, whatever it is. They're all briefing their piece.
Right.
And then it goes up to the troop chief briefing his piece, the team leaders, and then the O briefing overall, all that.
Right.
So it all comes into play. The officer is, the dangerous thing for the officer is that he's accountable for everything. right?
Everything.
Yeah.
Right. He's over.
So
all
that's
it
why he needs to have that trust that his guys are capable of doing their job. And he gets that from the troop chief, making sure the team leaders, the 2s, the 3s, the breachers, the snipers
Right.
are all good to go. So that O has that confidence to
Right.
brief the CO what's going on.
Right. And also, you know, shit rolls downhill. So, of course, you being a team leader, your 2IC is your right-hand man. So, like, you guys having that gel and then getting back with the boys, everything, it's all these gears spinning in a watch almost. So
Right.
you're talking about a fine Swiss timepiece almost. Per se, all those things have to be like firing on all cylinders, and you're talking about that could be, you know, life or death situations. I mean, literally, you guys are the
that's
tip
what
of the
you're
spear.
doing,
So,
yeah.
you know, it goes to show leadership has its roles in high and low, almost, because I'm pretty sure, like, even the lowest man, like you guys said, has a say in some things if he sees it. Not obviously, he's not going to overstep, right? But there's I'm pretty sure everybody gets to have a say.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right?
So a brand new guy may see something that we don't see or have a plan that we've never thought of that
Right.
he comes up with, and we'll listen for
Right.
sure. Because, you know, you can get complacent by doing the same thing over and over again.
Right.
Right. And sometimes, hey, it works. And, you know, the enemy also sees that you're doing the same
Right.
thing over and over, and they can plan for that.
Right.
So coming up with different ways, being creative, one thing that all soft guys are really good at, just coming up with a new plan, a different tactic, a different way to do things, so you don't get stuck
Right.
getting hit because you just did the same thing too many times.
Complacency kills, baby.
Yeah. So in that environment, you know, I've been in not SEAL but other type of operational environments, and one of the biggest things that I've seen, people, especially the new guys, aren't able to like they don't feel comfortable about speaking up, right? Hey, I got this idea. Because, you know, people judge them, or the ego that you were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
right? And how is that an environment? Do new guys, are they able to just talk their minds freely without
Yeah.
being...
So like when that planning comes down, you know, the
Yeah.
troop chief talks to the team leaders, the team and the 2s, and then they go down to their team and they start planning. That's the time to do it within your team.
Right.
It's the best way, right? So you go, hey, well, why would we come this way when there's, you know, whatever, a cliff or a river we've got to cross? Why don't we do this way? And then there will be a reason, or this is why we're doing it this way.
Gotcha.
Or, hey, how about we do something like this? And it may be a good point. So that environment, and the team environment, is the best way to do it. He also could bring it up, you know,
During the main brief?
in the main brief, but it's kind of like, why didn't you bring it up earlier?
Yeah.
'Cause
Right.
we're already going with this, right?
Gotcha.
So the best time is at the beginning stages, right? But at the same time, he could bring something up, and it probably won't be in the open. It'll probably be to his 2 or his
More like
team leader.
private.
Hey,
Okay.
man, so I didn't think about this, but this looks kind of shitty.
Gotcha. So, all right, this is a question I really want to pick your brains on about leadership. What do you, what are your thoughts about being that friendly buddy leader versus firm, fair, you know, leadership? Because those are two different styles, right? There's that leader who is kind of firm. He's fair with you, but he's not your buddy. Then there are those leaders who are your pals. What do you think? I feel like there's a fine line there. What are your thoughts? Which style is better? I'm sure this is a vague question, but I think you
No,
get
that's
what
a
I'm
good
saying.
point. I think it's a mix, right? So you don't want to be the buddy where you're your drinking partner and you get along with them, but everybody sees that guy, that the junior guy, is not up to par.
Yeah.
But that's his best friend,
Yeah.
right? So that's fucked up.
Yeah.
Because now that guy's going on the op. The only reason he's surviving is because he's friends with the troop chief or the team leader, right? And maybe that team leader or troop chief doesn't see through it, right? That's one thing. You have to really be a good judge of character, because there's people that are squeaky wheels that always go up to the leadership, hey, when am I going to make my next rank, and all that stuff, right? And people that are concerned about that aren't the guys that you necessarily want to move up. It's good to know that they want to be a leader, right? But they also should be focused on their job. And for somebody to step back and go, okay, I'm noticing that this guy is working his ass off, but he doesn't come to me and tell me. So I want to make sure I tell him he's doing a good job, right? Otherwise, he's going to get tired, because those guys aren't going to be going up to their leader and say, hey, yeah, I'm doing a good job. How come you don't notice? You should be showing, gratitude when it's needed. And also hammer people when you need to hammer them.
Right.
And who cares if it's your friend? So you don't want to be the buddy.
Gotcha.
You want to be able to talk casually with your guys and go out and have a drink with them, right? And have them open up to you.
Right.
That's like a version of being a buddy, but also for them to know that there is a line, right? That, hey, I have to talk to them about something, but I know there's a boundary, right?
Gotcha.
I may need to talk to my team leader first, and maybe the team leader brings it up to him.
Right.
You don't want just a junior guy go right up to the troop chief.
I feel like
you're crossing so many lines.
Yeah, people take that for granted too. They're like, oh, you know what? I'm good with Jim, and he's my pal. And I feel like they could just relax too and start being more complacent or something. I wanted to ask that.
The thing is that they do have, and I did too, is like an open door policy.
Right.
And they said, hey, man, I'm the troop chief, I'm the mass chief, whatever, I'm the team leader. Especially the mass chief, which they have an open door policy. It's pre-standard. That means anybody can walk in there to talk about issues, right?
Yeah.
If it's a personality issue, hopefully you talk to your 2, your 3, your 2, and your team leader, and maybe nothing was done.
Yeah.
And you're seeing a red flag, and a guy that's in the team that's below, right? And if nothing was done, that's when you probably want to go to your troop chief, right? And then he knows that you already talked to those guys, and then he could bring them all in and go, hey, what's going on with this guy?
Right.
Then they could hash it out, right, with everybody in the room except for, they figure it out. But you don't want to just walk in there unless it's like a shitty situation where hey, everybody's on this one guy's side. I got to bring it up to the troop chief to bring it up. So open door policy is good to have, that you can, over a beer or whatever, just talk to a guy. But you just got to be careful how you do it. You don't want to make that a habit of going past your current leaders to get to the top guy.
How do you have, here's a question, because, provided those who are active service members now, a common thing that's out now is, like, depending on where you are, is toxic leadership.
Yeah.
Especially in conventional forces. So now we're going up to an upper echelon of being tip of the spear, tier 1 units. How do you convey or try to steal their car away from, or have a tough talking to with people who are or potentially have the characteristics of being toxic leadership? Because the reason I say this, when you're at that level, these decisions are life or death. And that's just the way it is. So, how do you navigate that, per se?
So a good leader, like everybody thinks leadership is just down, right? And it is, but it's also up.
Right.
So if you're mentoring you guys below you, and you have a senior person that may be toxic or maybe he's going through a rough time in his life and is coming out. He's angry or he's pissed off and he's impatient with people and he's blowing people off. Your job is to talk to that guy if you're below him, right? You need to talk to him. And same thing, somebody below you, right? You need to bring him in, talk to him, find out what's going on. So the toxic person, if it is a toxic deal, they need to know how they're acting, how they're being perceived. Right. Because that's their chance to correct it. Right. If they don't correct it, over a multitude of talkings to, then that's when you need to try to correct it with other people. Maybe
do you go around it?
Yeah, you have
Yeah,
to.
you have to, right?
Because it is fucking detrimental
Yeah.
to take that guy overseas. And because what it does, if it's a senior person or even mid-level management, it has an effect on the guys, and it's morale.
All right.
And if morale is low, it's going to affect the op. It's going to affect everything. It's like you don't want to have a place where you hate to come into work because of one guy, right? And that's like, why would you want to go to work if you're fucking miserable? You're stressed out.
Right.
You're dealing with this person, and you're walking on eggshells. It's also the shit we do is dangerous. So it's like you don't want to have to deal with something else, right? So, but the important thing is you have to be pretty direct. You need to let people know, and then one of the leadership people should be talking to them and hopefully correcting it.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I feel like that happens to everywhere, and obviously at active crisis, you guys give leadership classes too, and that doesn't just happen in the Navy. It happens in corporate America, everywhere. Like all this.
It's one of the biggest. It's one of the biggest issues is that leadership may be blind to what's going on below them.
Yeah.
Right, and then if they're not, walking on the floor every once in a while, get to know their people, they'll only see their squeaky wheels or the 2 or 3 people that they talk to every day, and they may say, "Hey, everything's great," but they may not know how many issues are really going on unless they get down there. So, it is good to have your number 2 to help you out managing people. Like, hey, you let me know if there's any issues.
Yeah, it's very, very good, and this whole leadership thing, especially like in SEAL Team 6, right? Because here we're at Classic. Let's say we have our leadership. This is a safer environment, right? Where it's a corporate America type company. But in SEAL Team 6, you as a leader, you create op plans or you sign off on them. That could be the life and death, between the life and death, right? And those boys trust you. I feel like now that is true leadership. If you truly, there's one thing, like you're going to do it whether you like it or not, that's one thing. But boys, especially in your case, we were talking about, they trust you. How do you do that? I feel like that is something so rare. How do you do that?
It happens over there a lot because there's no school you go to learn that stuff. It's really the type of leadership style they use is a bunch of different styles that they use at different times. Like there's a time to be a dictator and just tell people what to do. Like usually, if something changes on target, you don't ask for the team leader's advice. That's when your experience comes through and you go, hey, fuck, this is what we're fucking doing. We only got 10 seconds to come up with this. Right. I'm making a decision, right or wrong. We got to do this.
Yeah.
So that's time to be more like, the boss. And there's other times where you want input from your guys because you got time. So you want inclusivity, even from the junior guys because you got a lot of time. Hey, let's open it up for conversation. But the biggest thing is why people would trust you is because you could still do the job. You're still out there training. You know the people. You're not fooled by the squeaky wheel that comes to you every day. And then the next thing you know, that squeaky wheel gets the next job, right?
Yeah.
Or he gets to go overseas. They only send 3 guys, and 3 of the guys are the squeaky wheels. And everybody's like, what the fuck? So do I got to be a squeaky wheel? I'm out of here, because they don't want to do that. So you have to know your people. You have to trust your people.
Right.
And you need to be out there training. So like I said, even as a command master chief, like I'm not going to be able to make a 2-week sniper trip, but I could go out there for 2 or 3 days to see the latest technology, the weapons they're using. So when something comes across my desk to buy new things, I'm not saying, well, I didn't use that when I was a sniper.
Right.
I could say, oh yeah, I saw what they're talking about. We don't need, not everybody in the squadron needs it, but these snipers, these guys need them. Let's get 8 or whatever it is.
So being up to date with what's happening on the ground currently.
Because technology is changing. You can't be the dinosaur that's still using a Silver Ranger compass. I mean, it's good to have that.
Yeah.
Evolve or die.
But you need also to be up on the up and coming shit.
Well, if you could, let me ask you this question. If you, right now, because obviously you still talk and have these things, if you could give a tip, 3 tips to an up and coming guy who's coming through Green Team right now that could pave the way for his furtherment of his career, what would you say?
I'd say keep your mouth shut and ears open. There's tons of all these badasses, especially in the lower management and mid management that you can learn from. If you have an ego, you're already gone. You should have gotten dropped in green team, right? But if you made it through and you had this ego, now you think you could spread your wings. You know, when you get to your squadron, you're going to get, because you still have a year on probation.
Right.
You know, so just learn as much as you can. Learn everything. Watch your senior leaders.
Right.
See how they act. See how they get things done. That's the biggest thing, is how do they get things done?
Right.
Because we've seen so many ops get shut down, and it wasn't until later, when I was became an E6, that I started seeing, you know, my sniper team leader and my sniper team chief. Oh shit! All these things got turned down, but they got it approved. How did they get it approved? This is super risky, you know. So I would learn from them. How do you get things approved? And a lot of it is trusting their guys. They know the capability. They understand capability.
Right.
Right. They know, and they've been training with their guys. So when they brief the senior people, they have a confidence that's like no other.
Touch on that capability topic. Let's go in there.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys tell me, what's the difference between qualification and capability?
Qualification tells me that I can do it. Capability lets me know that I can operate in that status all times.
Yeah, pretty much. Just like, so qualification, like we go to jump school, right? In the Army, you get the 5 jumps. So you're qualified to jump out of an airplane. But are you qualified to jump at night, 22 guys, and everybody from 28,000 feet, and everybody land within 100 meters, you know, 18 clicks away, right? Are you capable of doing that with night vision and landing together? You're not. So you have a qualification. What you want is a capability.
Right.
And at 6, that's all we do is capability. And if we're missing it, we will know about it. So you want, when you go through green team, we have a jump portion. And when you get done with that jump portion in green team, you have a capability to jump from, you know, 25,000 feet, fly 16 clicks, and everybody at night, and land within 100 meters, right, of everybody, and then go walk off and do an op. That's when you leave green team. So when you get split up and go to your squadrons, and this happened, a real world op pops overseas, and they got to do hostage rescue, and they got to jump in. And 9 of those new guys were new guys. Or, sorry, 9 of those guys that jumped in were new guys that jumped in and rescued the hostage.
Wow.
Yeah, when you leave green team, you have that capability, right? So, like I said, those guys, like, so we have that squadron overseas. A quarter of the guys, when they graduate green team, are flying right overseas, whatever they're doing. And in this case, they're planning a hostage rescue. They flew in, and on that deployment, they did a jump and rescued a hostage, right? That was 9, I believe 9 new guys, including a brand new officer. So, and the squadron didn't go, hey, are these guys good? Are they, you know, does anybody have any issues jumping? You know, no, because we created a capability. They can't leave green team without this capability, right? Individual and team and troop and all that stuff. So everybody can go into the squadron and just blend right in with the basics, right?
So yeah, qualification versus capabilities. I mean, they're 2 different things. So just like, you know, in the police department, you fire 50 rounds and you get like 80% on board or on paper, you're good to go. You're qualified to be a cop. But how capable are you, right? It's one of those things. That's pretty good that you guys are focusing on the capability, because that's what matters at the end.
Right. And here's a leadership thing. Like, so some people move up in rank, and this is across the board, NSW, soft communities, whatever it is. When you move up, sometimes you don't do the training as much, right? Because, hey, I'm a command master chief, I don't need to do this, whatever, or I've proven myself many times. But then you lack knowing, like when somebody asks you, hey, can you give me, what's your percentage being successful at this mission? And you're not sure because you haven't been with the guys. You're going to say, hey, you're going to edge on like, hey, 60%, you know, that may not be good enough.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's your confidence level, because number one, you haven't been jumping, so you're probably not comfortable jumping. And you project that onto your guys, even though they've been working their fucking ass off.
Right.
So you have to be involved in the training to see the capabilities of your guys, right? Especially the NCOs, because the officer may not be in the training as much. He still needs to train to prove himself and show that he's present. But he's also going to pull it up into the higher HQ meetings, right? And PowerPoints and all that crazy stuff. So for him, he's trusting that troop chief. Hey, what do you think? We're about to get asked to do this. What do you think? And if his troop chief goes, I don't know, man, is there any other way to do it? If he starts giving a negative vibe, that's how it's going to be briefed. Like, hey, we'd rather do an airstrike on this one or whatever. But if he gives the confidence of, yeah, we definitely could do this. We just got back 3 weeks ago. We got so-and-so as a lead jumper, blah, 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 And then when they go into that meeting, that you bring your professionals. Like for me, a lot of guys, like the officer's not just briefing. Like he better bring his troop chief, right, to talk about what he just told him. And then also, if I'm the troop chief, I'm going to bring my lead jumper.
Yeah.
Here's my lead jumper. He's the guy that I just told you about. He's got 1,500 jumps. And we just nailed, 30,000 foot drop O2 combat equipment, nighttime. And we all landed within 80 meters, and then we did an op. So that's the people that are listening need to hear that confidence.
So as a leader, you got to leave your ego aside and listen to your people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Right, especially if you're not involved in the training as much.
Yeah.
Somebody has to be involved.
Gotcha.
And then you got to let your people trust your people. Just like they trust the green team cadre to teach the guys the latest. They don't question, hey, can this guy jump? Like, of course, he just graduated green team. If he fails, they're going to come right back. Hey, was this your friend? Or how did this guy slip through, right? So there's a reputation thing involved, and green team is tough.
Yeah.
And it's there for a lot of guys get dropped that are solid as fuck, and they just may have made a mistake or whatever, but you can't slow down. We can't go, okay, he made a mistake twice. We're going to slow down for him. No, we got a process. So, and then that guy will go back to the teams and be upstanding badass there. But sometimes we can't wait, for a guy to catch up.
Right. Now, if somebody gets dropped from green team, can they re-apply?
Yeah, sometimes, especially if it's an injury.
Okay.
They'll just probably get recycled, depending on where it is.
Right.
If it's in the middle or past the crucible, which is CQC.
Okay.
Then they'll probably just hang out at the command and roll back to the next class.
Okay.
Piggyback on that one. Very good question. I like that. Okay, they could go back for injury, but if somebody screws up big time at the green team, that if you don't make it, you go back to your SEAL teams, right? Could they just be kicked out of SEAL teams completely?
If they had a major flaw, that will probably be considered. But I think usually what happens is, they look at the stress level that they're in, the mistake. Like, say, accidental discharge. They shoot their weapon when they're not expected to. They'll immediately get dropped, right?
Gotcha.
They made a mistake. But it would have to be a pretty big thing. There'd probably be some huge integrity violations going on where, hey, not only does he not want it here, we don't want him to go back to the SEAL teams.
Yeah.
And that's why I like the process at 6. Like, we only recruit SEAls. So we already could go deep to see if anybody knows a guy, right? And they're already cut from the same cloth. Yeah. Like, we all go through BUDS. We all have the same process. We all know, there's a culture thing, right? So we recruit from our own. And I think it's a positive. Some people don't think it is, but I think it is.
Yeah. I think that's a good thing because, like, when we were in Georgia, the CAT guys walked in. And they pull from everything. So, how many – it's just crazy. And seeing, again, another tip of the spear, how you guys interact with each other and how you guys talk. And it's so cool to see a different perspective of that. And I just thought it was so awesome. I mean, I think the scariest thing we heard was what
body's an acceptable backstop.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. So CAD guys were talking about that, when without giving too much CQB stuff out there, when you guys dominate corners, points of domination, CAD guys go in and they take all 4 corners in that center fed room, corner fed room. Let's talk about center fed. And if there's a target in the middle, 4 people shoot an X formation. Well, that means crossfire for them, right? Yeah. And we're like, well, how do you deal with crossfire if you got that, all 4 corners covered? They're like, hey, body's an acceptable backstop for us. And then one of the active crisis guys, who I love, shout out to him, he knows who he is. He said, whoa, that's hardcore. That's what he said. And that was so funny because it is hardcore. And they're using those varmint or whatever, some frangible rounds, I believe, for hostage rescue. We thought it was a little bit ridiculous, but it was really cool to see SEAL guys and the CAD guys kind of picking each other's brains on time.
Yeah, that is cool. And so there's many ways to do something successfully. So that's the biggest thing is like in Green Team, we're teaching specific ways of doing things. So there's a trust factor, right? If I'm the number one man, I'm going left. And as I'm going left, I see a guy in the middle of the room. I'm trusting that number 3 man to take him. Right. And I'm not going to turn to take that guy. This is how we do it, right? Because there may be a guy in the corner or near the corner, a doorway or something. So everybody's trusting the guy to cover their piece. And for hostage rescue, you're going fucking fast. I think me and the other guy, Active Crisis, showed
you guys did.
It's going fast, right?
Going fast, yeah.
All that stuff. So, and the way they do things is different, but it works. Right. So for us, we do something different, and it works for us.
And what you said, Jim, and what Cat Guy said it too, it was beautiful. You guys said, we're not saying this is the best way. We're just saying this is our way.
Yeah.
And that's very well put. I believe that's true because there's many different ways to skin a cat, and mission dictates your tactics too, and to a certain level. Maybe not your basics, but certain tactics.
Everything for us, everything falls apart if you lose a trust. If you don't trust the guy behind you or in front of you to do their job, that's fucked up. Because then, you know what I mean? Like if you're going for the corner, if you're going for the center room and then to the corner or whatever, if you're not doing that, then the guy behind you or in front of you is like, what the fuck? So then the next room you're going in, are you going to enter? You're probably going, and you see a guy to your right, you're probably going to take him out because you don't think the other guy's going to do it. Right. So that's where it falls. That's why Green Team is so strict on procedure, that you have to do it this way, and you have to trust the guys and to stick to your SOPs. So, and then things change. There's different dynamics that change, and there's like we showed you guys. There's many ways to do something. And there's like the biggest thing is body language for me. Like if you have good body language and you understand what body language, you don't have to say anything. You can read off people.
I got yelled at a couple of times for that. It's okay, hesitation in body language.
In training, I believe it's very okay to get yelled at and learn that stuff and make mistakes, right? I mean, you're an instructor. You instructed pretty much tier 1 baddest dudes out there in the Green Team. There are certain mistakes that you don't want to make, but I feel like if
as long as you don't make the same
over and over,
you have to make mistakes. Because we know where you're at, right? And then you could correct your mistakes. If you keep making the same mistake, that's when it becomes an issue.
Question for you: have you guys been, or your expertise? Have you guys done joint task force stuff?
Yes.
Okay. So maintaining your SOPs, and we talk about that trust factor, especially with your guys. How do you guys then mesh different SOPs for all going after
those guys? Got to be doing
the
different
same thing.
Yeah. So usually they don't send. So in the past we'd send a team to their AO, and they send a team to our AO.
Okay.
So we'd have a team in each.
Okay.
And so their team would be complete.
Okay.
So if they got tasked with a building or a room, they would go in as a team.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily like
mixing of
they're now learning new tactics or things like that. A lot of our recce guys went over there, to work with them, and there's very similar tactics with recce, so it's a lot easier for that. But we're not trying to change them; they're not trying to change us. We just know we just have a very similar capability.
Right. Gotcha. Especially building a battle plan. I mean, it's just that to me would be kind of nerve-wracking. Almost like we've got how we infill, they've got how they infill. Hey, what's the best route? What do we want to do? Night undercover? Do we want to go in local vehicles? Do we want to do all this stuff? Hey, we'd rather just jump in. All these different things coming together. It's just like, how do you navigate all that? But I guess that comes down to the commander of the area.
Leadership, yeah. So, and speaking of that, I'm going to go back to leadership, Jim. So you, obviously, you were a master chief, command master chief, troop chief at one point, command master chief later. Boys trust you. You've planned a lot of ops. You've done a lot of deployments, a lot of ops. And there's upstairs that you got to deal with. You got to deal with got to make certain calls, and you also got to deal with upstairs. Is there anything any stories specifically that you can share that where you dealt with upstairs just simply making bad calls? I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have dealt with it, because I've dealt with it, and I've not held a position like you have. People make bad calls up there, and then you got to kind of mitigate that. because the boys' lives kind of depend on some of
Right.
the calls that you make. Anything you can share?
Yeah, I think like real quick, I've made bad calls.
Of course. Okay.
And it's part of the process. It's part from leading in the front. You're gonna make mistakes. The part that gets frustrating if somebody's not as experienced at a certain thing, but they're in a leadership role, and they're not trusting you with your capabilities and your job and all that. That gets frustrating. Like they're not trusting the guys on the ground to make a call, and basically micromanaging, which is a leadership style for sure. That gets frustrating. And I would say that happens when you stop training with your guys. You stop watching, like even with the CMC of the command or command sergeant major, and you stop observing your guys doing training to see what they're doing and the latest tactics, the latest technology, all that stuff. That's when you kind of become a dinosaur, and you're relating everything to what you used to do. And you're probably not as experienced as the guys that are below you, for sure. So when that happens, you question things like, hey, can we even do this? That's what I was saying. Like if you are out there and you have people that are close to you that have been doing the training, you understand the capabilities, it's going to be easier for you to talk about it and to approve things. And also to trust your people. So if you put people in charge, then let them flex their muscles a little bit. Let them make a mistake, right? But don't micromanage them, because the way I used to look at it, like, hey, if you think I'm not doing a good job, fire me. But let me at least
Try.
lead.
Right.
And if I make several mistakes, that's when I'm up, right? If you don't have that confidence in me, get rid of me. But don't micromanage me, right? And then that decision I'm making isn't even mine. It's your decision,
Right.
based back from HQ. And now I'm doing something that you want me to do that I know is wrong, and I'm fucked up for doing it if I'm doing it, right? Because now I'm endangering my guys. So, yeah, there's ops that we did that was being pushed by the top for whatever reason, and we know it's wrong. And the good leaders always, I learned this very young, like you never say no, that we're not going to do something. You always offer a different option. And you have to be very tactful about it, because if you're the guy that always says no, basically fuck you, you're going to be removed real quick. So you want to propose as like, hey, that's one way of doing something. There's a better way. This is probably going to take more time, more effort, but we have an 80% success rate if we do it this way, vice 20% doing it this way. This is how we feel. We think we only have a 20% success rate if we do it this way for these reasons. We're on the ground. You're trying to plan something from over there. So you just have to be very tactful.
Gotcha. Do you have any, story time, any specific events that you can talk about that a command maybe made the wrong call, or maybe not the right call for you at that time, or the best call that you had to fight it?
I think there's some, let's see. There's a good story. I already been deployed 3 times, so I had some experience. I think I just made E6. I was a recce team leader, and we had a senior chief out with us, and he was senior to me, obviously, and we also had a chief that was senior to me. But they both said, hey, Jim, you have more experience out here. You tell us how we should do this target. And that was awesome. And that's how we operate, especially back then, was like, hey, nobody got their ego or their fucking panties in a wad if somebody else had more experience than you and they're junior to you. They automatic, like, I may have been a breacher for 8 months, but now that I'm a master chief, I'm not going to tell the breacher how to do his job.
Right.
Right. I'm going to say, hey, you guys tell me, you actually come and brief the CO what you would do. Recognize your talent. So they said, hey, Jim, how would we do this target? And the target was a guy that we've been after for, 8-9 months, maybe longer. And he had killed 2 SEAL Team 6 members, wounded a bunch of other guys, some CIA guys.
Well, what part of the country? What world?
It was Afghanistan.
Afghanistan, okay.
Yeah. So
So Taliban?
yeah.
Okay.
And he was, I I wouldn't say he was a senior level guy. He was mid-level management in Taliban, but his name was up there because he killed 2 team guys at different times. You know, the second time because we were looking for him.
Oh, so those 2 weren't at the same time?
No,
Different?
No, one guy got killed, and then a few months later, another guy got killed trying to track this guy, and a bunch of guys got wounded. Right, so this guy was top dog on our list. So when we would deploy, we'd look for this guy, and I think I'm on my second deployment looking for him. And right when we got there, he popped, and that's when the senior chief and the chief told me, "Hey, how will we do this?" And I came up with a plan. Had some really good feedback from some other guys that had been around for a while, and we briefed it. And we were waiting about a week for all these things to line up. So basically, our infill was going to be with a Jenga truck. We had bypassed these checkpoints, and the checkpoints were usually, you know, the Afghan National Army, ANA, that were working with us, but some of them were also paid off by the Taliban to let them know when a Humvee or a Hilux truck goes by or Americans go by. So that's why we're going to use a Jenga truck. We already tried to navigate through here and we got busted. So now we go, hey, we're going to use a Jenga truck, and we're going to hide everybody in the back. So that was the plan. And one night, and we're going to wait for the right time for this to happen, which when this guy's phone pops. And, you know, there's an ellipse of accuracy, you know, like over 100 meters when that phone pops, right? So if it's in a city, you don't know which building it's at.
Right.
So the place we were going to go was like a farmhouse. So he had multiple safe houses. So we're going to wait for him to pop at this farmhouse.
Right.
And he hadn't done it yet. So we didn't have our Jenga truck. So one day he popped in town, and they wanted us to go after him. And we politely said no, because we had basically zero chance of getting him.
Wow.
At the same time, there's this Taliban commander, or whoever it was, not commander, but this Taliban guy that was well known and making a name for himself. We already tried to go after him once, and they already knew what our MO is, right? So they said, hey, next time these guys leave the town with these vehicles, light them up.
Oh, so you guys actually tried to go after him?
Yeah, a couple times, yeah.
And then you guys got outed?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we were using the wrong vehicles, the wrong place, their vans, you know, with curtains closed, and nobody used vans in this AO. It was something that you don't know because you're not in the culture. Like, there's Afghans that can't go to another part of Afghanistan because their dialect is different. It doesn't mean anything to us because it sounds very similar, but to them, it's like, you know, coming in from a different planet. So it's little things. And some of them, we didn't know if the license plates were different or whatever that keyed people off that they're not from this province. And then you'd be like a target. So we had 2 vehicles that were not from that area, and we got made. So we're waiting for this Jenga truck. And then we were asked to go out that night and with these guys waiting for us to line us up with those vehicles, right? So we said no.
Oh, so wait. So you guys got made with those vehicles that you were in, and then they're like, now you guys are target. Your command wanted you to go back out there with those vehicles.
Yeah, some people from the command want us to go out there, and that's when we politely had to say no.
Okay.
Even though Intel tells you, don't do it.
Yeah, we sent all the reports and stuff like that. Jeez. So that was rough because that went back and forth for a while. You know,
that's crazy. That went back and forth. And again, I don't know the details, but it's crazy. With
the thing, so you know, there's a lot of pressure for the leadership to do something.
Right.
And so I wasn't there. I was out in the field, right? So there's no pressure for me. It's like, hey, we want to do this way. But for those guys back at the jock, back at Bagram, they're being pressured by colonels and captains. And saying, hey, I want you guys to go get this guy. This guy killed 2 of our guys. Why aren't you going after him? You know, they don't understand the intricacies of, hey, we have a plan. It's going to take a few days. Patience will win this day over, right? So they may not understand those. So those guys have tons of pressure on them to do something. And they just maybe don't understand all the details, even though they see the reports. You know, that sucks when you have a senior person telling you to do something, ordering you to do something.
Right.
So that was rough, but it ended up going in the right way, and we got our way. We went out a few nights later, and and then things changed. Like they go, hey, before you go out, hey, we actually want you to jump in. And then you have
that's right, jumping in. That sounds like a good idea. I don't know. Is it?
It was, for me, it was not, because like we had a good plan.
Mm-hmm.
The reason they want us to jump in was just to prove a point that we could do that, which we already knew we could jump in. But, I don't want to take any chances. There's a lot of nomads out there.
Right.
We had gone in a few nights before, me and another guy, to do our route so we could have our time distance calculated. So that you can't just walk in like 5 miles and go, okay, I think we'll be there at this time. Because we had to cross stream beds. We had a bunch of nomadic people out there. We had to walk around. So I went out with another guy a few nights before to GPS track our way into the target and see how long it would take, and which saved us, because you had to do that because there's a time distance thing. People don't understand that if you have air assets and you have your gun, you want your gunship over the target like about maybe 30 minutes before you're expected to take it, because it may only have an hour and a half of fuel.
Yep.
Right? Or maybe even less, 45 minutes. So let's say it's 45 minutes or an hour. If you plan, hey, we'll be there at midnight, and then it's actually taking you longer, and that guy's waiting for you.
Your air asset is
by
gone by the time you
there. Yeah. So is that right? Now, does that mean your mission's over?
No.
It can, if that was your min force. If your min force was like an AC-130 or A-10s or something like that, and if you briefed it was min force and then that left, you have to abort mission.
Okay, wow.
So that's why you don't want to really, you have to really understand min force.
Right.
And that's a whole nother subject. Remind me to go back to that, because this is
force.
a pet peeve of mine. Yeah, minimum force.
Okay.
So knowing your time distance to a target is super important. And that's usually recce guys figuring that out. And it may be from experience because they walked around here before and they'll figure it out. And it's better to be waiting at your ORP for an aircraft than trying to rush to get there because it's about to leave. Right. So anyways, we did the time distance thing. So we had our aircraft solid, and we went in, and we ended up getting the guy and his bodyguard.
Wait. Not so fast. Wait a minute.
Yeah, that was simple.
What?
Yeah, so we recce'd in, and then he was there.
Got
and
the guy.
then, we just did it. So
all right. So
that was the most PG answer I've ever heard in my life.
No. I mean, I'd like to know.
ISR saw it all, but yeah. Jeez.
Well, we ain't got the guy. Okay, cool.
Well, so I'll tell you. So there was a target building, square, mud walled compound, and then a smaller shack. And like I said, a few nights before, I had walked that, and that shed, whatever it was. One of the interpreters said that's a prayer room, and if you open up that door, it's just 20 feet by 10 feet, and it's just an open room. I'm like, okay. And the other was a big compound, and it was only like 40 feet from the big compound. So when we got dropped off, right away there was activity at the place. So I had, I think it was 18 guys. I only had like maybe 12 SEALs. We were short.
Okay, so 18 guys, 12 SEAls. Any of those Afghans or?
Well, the Afghans drove us in, and then they took off. So then what I had was, EOD, CCT, PJ. A couple of that. Maybe it was 17, something like that. It was way below 20.
Gotcha.
So we were struggling to do this target and this small compound. But what I assessed was the small compound wasn't going to need much.
Right.
So I just had 3 guys covering that.
Okay.
And then the idea was that, hey, this guy may be parking his vehicle here, his motorcycle, but sleeping hundreds of meters away, away from his phone and all that stuff. So the best plan, I thought, was like to take this thing down quietly. And then if he wasn't there, then we just wait for the daytime. Maybe he drives back in. So we have 2 chances. But when we got dropped off, immediately we got word that ISR was saying, hey, there's like 26 guys or 26 people on the main compound.
Holy shit.
And 3 to 4 on that little shack. And
that information came to you at the very end?
No, right when we got dropped off.
Okay.
So we had like
I mean,
5 clicks to go.
past the op plan, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were right. He was there, and there was a lot of people there, right, including kids and women, right? So the idea was, okay, we weren't expecting anybody to be out that small building, and I was only sending 3 guys, and we don't want to send 3 against 4. So the only thing difference is we won't go soft. Obviously, I'm not going to jump over the wall and open up the door for the guys. I'll just remove myself from that. They'll breach that door. I'll go with the 3 guys to take down that small building. And we're all thinking that he's in the main building. And so as we're moving up, there was another building like 800 meters away, and they wanted us to cover that one too. And I said, I don't have enough guys.
800 meters.
Come on, man.
So there had been movement to that building, right?
Okay,
So they go, hey, you guys have to cover that thing. And I said, hey, I don't have enough guys. So I lost that battle. So I remember I had a CB with me. I go, I can't send a CB by himself. So I had to send one of my premier guys, another sniper. Okay, he needs to lead that guy over there. I only could give up 2 guys. So I need to give my sniper and a CB who's competent to cover that building. So I lost 2 guys right off the bat,
Oh.
So now it's 10.
No, we had enough. It was just like he was a solid guy.
Okay.
He's not a guy that I wanted to give up.
Gotcha.
Right.
But I couldn't just send 2 guys that were support 800 meters in the dark
Yeah.
to
Right.
find a location. You need to have some recce skills to navigate and get to the point and successfully cover that. So the rest of us we had cordon the big building and the small building. The breach went. The dogs were barking everywhere. It was way different from the night before I went when there's a strong wind. Now there's no wind. They can hear everything. So by the time we opened up that small door, I had a bigger guy kick the door open. I went in, and it was like a shithole. It was basically a shitter, right? And there was a big step, and then there was another door to the left, right, which went to the 20 feet. Mm-hmm. So it was just like a 8 by 5 foot room with a toilet. And so I was like, man, the dog's been barking. A breach went off. These guys know we're in here. Right? So, and it was like the little hobbit door. So I put myself at the door, and I was going to open. It was going to open towards me, little wooden door. And so I opened the door, and as the number 2 man, I'm looking in because I'm about to be the second guy in.
Right.
And I saw all 4 guys and 2 guys yelling Allah Akbar and getting ready to unload on us. One was a AK-74 and one AK-47. And, at the time, I made probably a very huge mistake. I didn't have any body armor. I was planning, I had that in a rucksack, right? I was going to plan, as you remember, to climb over and take it down quietly. So I had never transitioned,
So you're fighting what you got.
Right. So I open up the door. I see what I see. I yell to the guys, AK. The number 1 man holds off, and the other 2 guys are behind him.
Yeah.
And I had no cover, so I just had basically this door, and he lit up that whole door with a full mag, and luckily missed me.
Wow.
Then I pointed my gun up, shot into the door, and moved and took the place of the 1 guy so I could have some cover.
Right.
Immediately, those guys threw a grenade, and it hit the door jamb, landed right by my feet. But luckily, it didn't go a couple inches into our little room, and it landed right at the door jamb and just fragged right past us. Like a cone of fire just missed us. So we got lucky. But it filled the whole room with dust.
Right.
So I'm still firing into the door or into that room, just trying to keep them out. And then, we made the call to leave, to get outside of the door. There was a ditch like 10 feet away.
Yeah.
And I go, hey, we're in a shitty spot if another grenade gets in here. And they actually did throw another grenade, but it didn't go off. We found it later.
Oh, wow.
So we got out of the room. We got a grenade in, and then I was the closest to the door. One of the guys is going to call air support and pulled the guys off. I stayed at the door,
Air
And
support for that little building.
Yeah, the air support, because that's a standard for us, right? It's like, hey, we got these big guns. Like for me, I was worried that, hey, well, I don't want to pull off this target because they could get out. There's a ditch right here. They can take it. So, and the air support was not accurate. They didn't tweak their gun, so there was a big issue with that. Their rounds were landing not on target. So, anyways, the bad guys were trying to come out, and luckily I had my night vision and a laser, and I could hold my weapon up. And, I was in the ditch. So the only thing showing was my shoulders, my head, and my gun. And so I was just tagging whatever I could see, their knees, their elbows, and they're shooting over my head. And it's that saying's like, at night, you all shoot high. They definitely shot high. They shot right over my head, clearly, and they probably thought I was farther away. So
they didn't have night vision, I'm assuming? They're just
No, they're just shooting.
Not then.
Yeah. They had some of our night vision, but these guys did not have it.
Okay.
But, they threw another grenade at me, and it landed right below my weapon, blew me back, fragged my main weapon.
What was your main weapon?
It was sniperized M4 16-inch.
Okay, so M4 16-inch,
Yeah.
LPVO or red dot?
Yeah, I had a 2.5 to 10 and a red dot.
I see.
The red dot was for CQC. It was awesome. I had 700 yards on that gun, but I could do CQC with it.
Gotcha.
Wow.
But it had jammed my gun. That explosion jammed my gun, blew me back. And I'm embarrassed to say I didn't have a pistol because I was going low vis, more like low vis.
Low vis. So no pistol, no body
no
armor,
lifeline.
helmet?
Yeah.
Helmet?
So
no.
I had,
helmet because of night
we had
nods.
Pro-Tech with nods, yeah.
Okay.
So I luckily had several grenades, and I got a grenade in the door, which got them, and then I finished them off with some shots.
So you got your gun back up, right?
I got my gun. Yeah, I got the grenade, and then I threw another grenade, and then I got my gun up.
So you guys were playing a little grenade fight within 10 feet of each other?
There was like a grenade. Yeah, it was.
Catch.
I got lucky that their one that threw at me didn't land in the ditch. It landed right in front of the ditch.
Wow.
So you were kind of covered with that little slope?
The spray, went above me.
Right.
Because I was in the ditch, and it just hit my weapon.
Okay.
So I got lucky.
So that's when it's important, a rigidity of a weapon system, right? Like, what?
Yes.
Yeah. Just think about this. Like, because there's so many ARs out there. I mean, of course, with the SEAL teams, but there's so many ARs out there. I don't there's a couple I own. There's no way they could take that kind of a blast. It's not working. It's going to be bent. Barrel will be bent. It's just not going to work.
Yeah.
No way.
I got lucky. Yeah. I still, I had frag on the barrel, but nothing on me.
Okay. So you got you guys are having this little grenade battle, and then you got your rifle backup running.
Yep.
And which is, dude, at night, you got night vision. You got a gun that's down. You got to fix that thing somehow. That's another story.
In the middle of a fire / grenade fight.
Yeah. Luckily, the other guys that were with me, they were about 20, 30 yards to my right. They moved up and started supporting. So that was good.
That's good.
Wow.
And then you said you finished them off. I think we went a little fast there again, a little bit. So you start unloading into that. So they're still inside the shed. They didn't come out.
No, they never made it out. They were at the door jam.
All right.
So that's where I got them.
Okay. And so that's good. So you engaged them. And did you have your target there, or who were these people?
So the other target, the main target, had the 26 people. It went quiet. So the assaulters there, were rounding up everybody.
Right.
Right. So they got everybody, and it was the target wasn't there. So he was in that little shed.
Wow.
So that was but we didn't know it at the time. We didn't. Okay. So now we have to ID him.
Right.
So SSC and trying to find him, and then we finally found his phone, found the other grenade that they had tossed, and then we had our CI guy came in and ID'd him. So it ended up being a good op. And then we stayed another 2 weeks, and then there was a lot of stuff that rattled from the tree that we could clean up. So we spent 2 more weeks just cleaning up that area with a bunch of other
ops.
Yeah, it just shook the tree big time.
Man, what an awesome story. You got this dude went out there and killed a couple of SEAL Team 6 guys. God knows who else. I don't know. Like, I'm sure he's engaged some other American troops. and you guys were able to get out and get him. And this shows the leadership end of it. But first of all, I mean, it's an amazing story. Leadership end of it, that if you listen to the upstairs, perhaps you're going to have a much less successful mission, but jeopardize the boys who trust you as the leader. So pushing back, I'm sure that wasn't easy, as you said, was a really good thing because you are the guy on the ground. You know what works, what doesn't work, given the circumstances.
I was really lucky that I had senior guys that I learned from my previous deployments.
Yeah.
That would say no, but not in a disrespectful way. Like I said, offering a different solution.
Yeah.
Like, hey, the end goal is to do this.
Gotcha.
And this is how we feel we could do this and have the most success rate. But if we go tonight, whatever it is, like, hey, we're not prepared with this and that, the full moon, whatever it's going to be, you make your case. And at the end of the day, they may still say you're going. And then that's, especially for hostage rescue.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes you just got to, it
have to.
sucks. You may have to go on a full moon. They may know you're coming, which has happened, right? All the odds are against you, but you have to go.
As a leader, do you tell your boys, guys, I don't agree with this call, but this is what they're making us?
So
Or no?
that's a tricky thing to say, right?
Because you don't want to lower their motivation, right?
Right, because what happens is, like, this is a good segue. So, when you're a junior guy, wherever's, FBI, whatever, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Navy, Army, whatever it is, you talk shit, right? As you move up into leadership, like, nobody's expecting their leader to talk shit about the leaders, right? Because then you're trying to be one of the guys. Like, hey, motherfuckers, they're making us do this. Because I remember one of my leaders did that to me, and I looked at him and I'm like, you're the leader. Like, you're the only guy that could say no, And so in this particular situation, this guy was complaining like all of us E5s, and he was a command master chief. And I was like, aren't you the guy that could say no?
Yeah.
Right? And he didn't say no. He was just complaining like us. So that made me go, wow, he's not really sticking up he's complaining with us, but he's not actually leading. And I would respect him if he went to the senior person that said for us to do something stupid. And this isn't an operational thing. This is like an admin thing that they're making us do, like wash vehicles or something like that. But it doesn't matter. Like, if he had went to them and said, hey, I don't think we should be doing this. This is not good use of our time, whatever. And then they still said, no, I want you to do it. I would have respect for him because at least he confronted them.
So he comes in. How would you expect him to say it? Like, guys, this is what we're doing. This is the call I'm making.
Right. So I would say something like, basically, this is what we got, right? There's a lot of risk to this mission. We're going to try to mitigate as much as we can. What kind of options do we have? What do you guys see? This is what I see.
Okay.
Like, it's a full moon. When does that moon set? When does it? Because sometimes the moon's not up all night, right? It may be set at 1 a.m. Okay, so it's going to be really low. Are there mountains up there? Is it going to even be setting sooner because there's mountains? So maybe at midnight it's set at, So there's options for you. If you have to go, you have to fall back to your training and your capabilities and creativity to get the job done. You can't just say, hey, man, this fucking sucks. I don't want to do it. You don't want to do it, but we got to go.
Gotcha.
The morale is so fucking low. They're already expecting that we're going to fail. What you got to do is motivate them. Go, hey, I need ideas.
Gotcha.
And this is what I got. What do you guys got? But we're going, and this is, we need to mitigate. Because if you put that little bit of poison, that, hey, I don't think we should be going tonight, and if it's a hostage rescue, that you don't want to be like that, because they're going to start doubting themselves. They're going to be hesitating when they go in the door and all that stuff.
All right.
Very good point, man. Like, this is something that I wanted to know, and I've been guilty of, like, many years ago when I thought I was a leader. Not at all. I didn't know what I was doing. But yeah, you do say that sometimes. Like, hey, I don't want to do this, but the bosses are making me do this. Sorry, guys, sign it over here. Yeah. I'm glad you said that. That's you don't have to be a dick and say, hey, we're fucking doing this. Like, basically, that's what you're saying. But you also are looking for options. This is when you open it up to the guys. Hey, how can we make this less risky? What are some of your ideas? Because I've been thinking about how to turn this thing down. That's what my focus was. What do you guys got? And that's when your junior guys could come up with an idea. Your middle, anybody could come up with a different idea, and you want to hear everything.
Right.
Yeah. So no, this is really good. And jumping back to your op, you guys did it with min force that you wanted to talk about. What are your thoughts about minimum force?
Yeah, so you need to know as a team leader and especially a troop chief, this is your brief. When you're briefing an op, the troop chief is briefing min force. And that is, hey, we have, let's say, 25 guys. We're taking 25 guys. But like if one of the helos breaks, so we always talk about contingencies.
Mm-hmm.
If a helo breaks down and we only have one helo, how many guys do we need to do this operation? So we have, whatever I said, 25 guys.
Mm-hmm.
How many guys do we need? And if you come down to it, it's like, okay, we only need 14 guys to do this op successfully.
Mm-hmm.
But what 14 guys? You can't just take 14 COs. You may need your EOD. You definitely want your
PJ.
corpsman or PJ, right? You want your recce guy. Do you need all 4 recce guys or just 2?
2.
So you actually have to go into detail of who you want. Those 14 guys, who are they, right? Do you need, all these team leaders or whatever you need?
Mm-hmm.
This is where you come down and go, hey, if we lose one helo, this is our min force, and this is who we're taking on that one helo. And if you go below that, let's say, hey, we only have the helicopter goes because you didn't check. Hey, we only have room for 12 because of the weights. And then you go, oh shit, we can still do it with 12. You're already fucked up because you said 14 was your min force, and now you're saying you can take 12. You're gonna get shot down because you said 14. So you want to actually really put thought into this. It's like, hey, we could do this op with 8 dudes. No shit, we could do it with 8 dudes, but these are the guys that we need, not just any 8 dudes.
No.
We need these guys to do this op.
Right.
So if you're missing one of those guys or one of those skill sets, you shouldn't go because you're already breaking a boundary you had to be successful. So it's just like you take a vehicles to target, like 12 vehicles. 2 of them break down, right? Get flat tires or whatever. But you're trying to make a timeline, and you leave guys behind to watch those vehicles and also enough to protect themselves.
Mm-hmm.
How many guys do you need? This happened in Somalia, when working with another unit. I was telling them, hey, what's your min force? And they said, we're taking everybody. I went, well, what is your min force?
Right.
And when 2 vehicles broke down, they left, 26 indigenous fighters, and they said, hey, we're done. And that's when the argument came with us that, hey, we're not done. We got 60 guys.
It's a very, very good point. Like
right.
good evidence.
But you don't have that argument in the field.
Yeah, you did well before.
You want to actually put thought into how many people do you need? What assets do you need to do this target?
Right.
And if one of those things goes away, then you have to say we're done.
Right.
That's why. That's the thing is you don't want to. If we get so used to having all these air assets, but do you really need them? What can take place of a AC-130, like artillery, 105s, 155s, that are all weather, and very pinpointed. Like I love artillery. Like that is all weather, a minute out if you set it up right. You don't have to worry about getting a foreign pilot that's afraid to drop. Running headings, all these things. AC-130 that sight in their guns. The Marine Corps is very apt, even the Army, but especially the Marine Corps. I love working with the Marines because you're working with a gunnery sergeant, and you're just telling them what you need. You can have their guns pointed to TRP-1, which is like 200 meters from your target. It's like, hey, this is a staging point that I think the enemy may take. So that's TRP-1, your technical reference point where I want the guns aimed because if there's any reinforcements coming, I just want to call it in. Yeah. And then you could adjust from there.
Did you guys have a QRF on that?
We did.
Okay.
They actually flew in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I need a Spectre gunship. I need an ISR pred.
Yeah.
And QRF needs to be at least less than 10.
Yeah. We had a QRF, which is good to have.
Right.
Sometimes here's another thing. So we get so used to having all these air assets, ISR, which can see the target, right? And that means the people back home, HQ, can watch, right? So they want to see. So what happens when there's clouds and they can't see?
Cloud cover.
Right? So what happens is usually the operation gets canceled.
Or if they can't see, they don't want.
Can't. Yeah, but what do they do in Vietnam? Right?
What?
Did they have air assets?
No.
Did they still complete the mission?
Yeah.
Did they have artillery? Did they have supporting assets, supporting units, QRF, RF? They had other things that they could do. So now we're so used to having all these assets, this technology that, like for SEALs, like we're all about frogman weather, which is the shittiest weather. We learn that in BUDS. Hey, if you're coming from the beach and you got sentries on the beach, you don't want to do it, when it's perfectly no wind. You want to come up when there's a rainstorm, there's thunder, there's like
Makes sense.
shit going on, and you want to come in and then slit the guy's throat when he's not expecting it, and he's huddled up trying to protect himself from the rain, not being diligent looking out at the sea or whatever. And that goes with everything, working in the jungle, working in the desert, whatever. You want the shittiest weather to cover you, to help you, so people aren't as diligent when they're looking for you.
Well, segue into training then. So in order to do that stuff, you got to be very well trained on high waves and rain and cold with different gears. What are your thoughts about training?
Training is, like we're talking about choreographing, right?
Yeah.
So training, like even if it's a troop, the troop chief and the troop commander should not know what's going on. They should they should have a target. They should brief it just like regular. And then they should do their target. It's probably going to be with paint, right? And they're going to have role players. And then the shit should hit the fan. And then they should adjust to complete the mission, right? Or pull off or whatever they're going to do. But you want them to go fully through the whole thing, whether they, if they get contact on the way in and they decide to, hey, we're pulling off, calling the helos or the vehicles and get out of here, or they're adjusting, having a small team to cover those guys and then continue to the target to have a successful mission, or not get sucked in to those guys shooting at them, because that's not the target, right? So you want to test them and without telling them what's going on. And so not only, because usually what they're testing is just the assaulters and the team leaders. You're not testing the troop chief or the troop commander. You want to test the troop chief and the troop commander, because those are the guys that are going to call off something or push forward. And you want to give them as many curveballs as you can that are realistic.
So Jim, have you ever had any resistance to training as a leader?
Yeah. I think not so much resistance, but like some people look down on things that they think are a boondoggle, like climbing trips, which in essence, they seem like fun, right? But that is some of the scariest shit I've ever done. Like lead climbing, with, even a 5'8" climb isn't that bad, or even a 5'7". But when you're putting in your own protection and you're climbing, and if you fall, you're fucking at least going to break your back.
Oh,
it's scary shit, right? And then not to mention that you're doing a 5'10", traditional climb, and then or redlining something where meaning you've never done it before, you're just going to do it, right? So, and that's what we would do overseas, right? So you're going to do something you've never done before, so that's what we train. And it gets scary, man, when you're like lead climbing something that's, and you try and find the right protection to put in, and it's not the right size, and you're hanging on with one arm, and you try and find the right protection. You got like 10 foot of line to your next piece, or even 6 foot. If you fall, you're falling at least 12 feet. So that is one. Another one was, I remember we're doing a big wave with the jet skis, MRVs, right? And, we have Zodiacs that we train with, right? But the jet skis are pretty badass. They could get in really tight and very maneuverable. And we had them so we could do a lot of capability with them. So we used to go to, where do you train on big waves? Where's the biggest waves, in the States? Is Hawaii. So we would send our guys out to Hawaii to train with the big waves. And you're basically rescuing swimmers, right, that are halfway out in the surf zone, and there's a big wave coming up behind you, and you got to take your jet ski, go get them, and get back out without getting crushed, broadsided by a wave. And they do that at night. So you're doing it with night vision, coming in to get guys off the beach or out of the surf zone to take them back out. And that's some hairy shit. So I remember some of the senior leaders were like, man, what's this? Because you'd brief all the trips that your squadron's doing. And people, what's all this MRV training in Hawaii, going to Hawaii for 2 weeks? What is this, And And sure enough, like the guys are doing it, and the guys that understood it, and the senior chiefs and the master chiefs understood the capability that you're trying to create, right? Hey, we want to get people off the beach quick, and it may not be with the Zodiac. So then, of course, an op happens, and things go bad because we didn't have that training. And so, like you need to brief up the capabilities. You want to be solid in the reason. That's why you want your NCOs to have the experience of the capabilities that we have, so they could properly brief. If it gets shut down, it gets shut down. Sometimes we don't have the money. Sometimes we don't have the opportunity to train. And that's fine. But we don't want to be it because an NCO like me, a Master Chief, doesn't understand the capability and doesn't brief it well.
Gotcha. Wow, that's very important, especially a tier 1 unit like SEAL Team 6 or some other units. Did you need to be able to operate in pretty much any conditions, right? If those high waves are a reality, which they are, then our tier 1 guys should be able to operate there. I mean, if you can't operate, who's going to operate there?
Right.
Right?
Well, you're doing those big waves, and then the waves that you deal with are maybe like a quarter the size, or not even just a swell. Like we've had Zodiacs get flipped at the beach, just a 2-foot, 3-foot wave. Yeah. That's just a shore break that just tips everything over, right? Yeah. So it all is relatable. If you just like our jumping and our climbing, we're climbing some hairy stuff. We're jumping, doing some crazy stuff. So you want the best instructors to teach you these things, so you're prepared. And then if you do something even half-ass as big as those or as tough, you could crush it, right?
Gotcha. So Jim, training is extremely important, and this once again reminds us that. As a leader, I want to ask you this last question for leadership, and then I want to move on to active crisis, chat about active crisis, your company a little bit, because we have some experience. I think it's absolutely amazing, and you can tell us more about it, and folks who are listening, I'm sure they'll be very interested in that. Ownership. What are your thoughts about that?
So, you should be owning your stuff all throughout, as a junior guy all the way up to a senior guy. And that's why it's important for the senior guys to be training. Like I said, you may not be able to go to the kill house for 3 hours during one of the days that the guys are out there, but you could go out there for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes and do a run with them, right? Mm-hmm. And if you make a mistake, you own it. And that teaches the junior guys, like, I fucked up. Oh, shit. What's going to happen? But because the debriefs are pretty important, and you want to be able to own your stuff because you learn from it. The other thing is that if people, like for us, for SEALs, it's our debriefs are fucking brutal. And they need to be. Even if everything goes well, we still have a debrief. And we still hammer guys for, hey, the fucking comms wasn't up. Why? What was up with the fill? Yeah. We were 10 minutes late leaving because we had the wrong fill for our radios. And we had to go get the comm guys, and we had to reload. And why didn't the snipers know how to load the radios? That's your job. We had one comm guy loading 40 radios, shit like that. Yeah. So still a success, but we're going to talk about the things that didn't go well. Otherwise, we're just going to give each other high fives and not talk about the little things that next time may cause the mission to fail, right? So through the whole operation, you're going to talk about the beginning, the infill, insert, actions on, exfil, and extract. And pre-mission, post-mission, all that stuff. And that way, everybody has, and they see that people are getting called out, and then people are admitting, yeah, I fucked up. Yeah, we got the guy, but this is how I fucked up, or I didn't cover this guy correctly. And everybody be open and honest, because it is a learning thing. And also, there may be an area of a target where there's a shooting going on, and 100 yards somewhere else, people are taking down a building. They don't know what happened over there. So if you don't talk about it amongst everybody, the guys that weren't there have to go later. Hey, what happened over there? Because now it's like cliquish, right? The team only knows what happened. The rest of the guys don't know what happened. If somebody was killed, everybody needs to hear what happened. Right. And if there's any issues, it needs to be brought up right then and there. So that senior leader and the officer can deal with it. Right, you don't want to have to find out later that something happened that you didn't know about. Right. So success or not, you still need to have a brutal debrief, talk about everything, get it out, and that is ownership, right? Like people talking about, hey, I know we crushed it, but hey, I only had half a tank and I forgot to fill up my vehicle. We made it through, but
Yeah.
if we had gone one more mile, it'd probably be fucked.
Yeah.
Like, to talk about that, like, hey, I didn't allocate enough time, and I forgot to tell the junior guy to do it, but it was my responsibility. I fucked up. That's ownership.
Gotcha. Very well. I love that. I love picking your brains about leadership because you led a tier 1 unit for many, many years, and it takes a special person to be able to do that, obviously. Moving on to active crisis. Now, Jason and I got some experience with you guys because we went and did some videos with you guys. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, if you guys haven't seen this video, go to Classic Firearms YouTube channel and check out the active crisis training that Jason and I did. Absolutely incredible training environment. Jason does more of these trainings that he signs up throughout the year because I was with the government for years and government provided me whatever training they did, and that's what I'm used to. But as a civilian, I have only done active crisis, right? So I could compare that to some of the trainings that I had in the government, but Jason can probably speak better on this as he does these trainings every year. What are your thoughts about the training with active crisis?
I wish I had more time there.
Yeah, right?
Seeing you guys operate at that level and how you guys break it down to brass tacks and almost want to say tolerance stacking, because obviously it depends on whoever it was. Like, you had folks who had never done any of this stuff, some seasoned guys who have, and folks who are in between, but you guys meet everybody where they are. And you tend to pull the best out of them, what they can do, and then also not put any limitations on their apparatus while they're doing it. So that's a big kudos and commend, because obviously, granted, given y'all's tier 1 position, most people come in and feel very intimidated. But you guys, there was no such thing of that, and that's extremely unheard of in a training realm when it comes to that, especially when people are when you guys are providing a service to service or non-service member folk. I mean, that's just what it is. And I'm very thankful that coming from you guys, it was just very, I wouldn't say chill. Yeah. I wouldn't say that, but like the standards were upheld. It was very well and it was demanded, and it was rigorous, and I appreciate that, and it was just great all around. The camaraderie, you can tell you guys gel very well together. And like I said, you guys just pull out what you see, and well, hey, let's run that back, let's tweak it. You know how many times I heard this man say, "Up, stop." Exactly. Up, stop, Jason. I need you to make a decision, man. Like, stop with this whole head turning shit. Your body language is telling your guys that, like, all this stuff. So, like, that to me is a good check, because you can be, crack shot all you want to, and per se, that video, like, I know what I'm capable of doing. I know how to push myself in certain aspects. I know where I can get it, but sometimes you do become complacent, and that's just what it is. There's nothing wrong to be humbled in a training environment, because to me, that's when the wheels should fall off, per se. You're honing the steel at that point in time, or iron sharpening iron, however you want to look at it. So thank you for that, seriously.
Yeah, no, that's definitely ditto on that one. Amazing, fantastic experience. I thought you guys are very well. You all have a set of skills that your own, and put them together. You're all strong together. And compared to some of the trainings that I had in the government, this whole tactical world is filled with ego.
It is.
It just is. And I had none of that with you guys.
Yeah.
You guys are, that invisible line was so apparent that you were really a bunch of cool guys, but you meant business.
Right.
So you didn't feel in any way. That's why I asked you that question. When you're a brand new guy, can you ask a question without people kind of getting weird at you? At active crisis, I noticed that I could just lift my hand up, raise my hand up, and ask any questions. Nobody was going to judge me. You guys were going to give me the answer that I need it. And yet you guys were still there for business. When we were done training, then we went back to the little lodge and had a good time. But training time, we all trained and got a lot from you guys. So tell us about the company a little bit, and if you guys have anything upcoming. And I know you have news. I guess Colonel.
Admiral.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Admiral.
Jesus.
Admiral,
big difference between now.
So, yeah, somebody new in the team. So, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, this podcast will probably come out later. We just announced it anyways, but we just brought on Vice Admiral Colin Kilrain. So this guy is top notch, dude. He's an officer that we all enjoy working with. He's solid. His reputation is solid, and that's tough, especially for an officer.
Right.
Because they are expected to lead and also make good calls and all that stuff, and not protect the boys when they fuck up, but actually stand up when it's needed. And he's one of those guys, and still had a good balance with his senior people, right? So he's respected from the top and the guys on the bottom. So bringing him in is huge.
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's what we want. We want to bring solid people in. And like you said, everybody has an ego. But like the way I look at it is like when I see people with big egos, especially when I first meet them, they already told me their story. They're insecure about something. Yeah. And they want to try to prove themselves to you by fluffing out their chest or wearing super tight T-shirts like you do, Kaya, whatever it is.
Cut.
I did not see that coming.
I think I saw that coming.
Medium.
Hey, guilty as charged, guys. Guilty as charged.
I'm just saying. Yeah. So bringing Vice Admiral Kilrain in is a huge bonus for us to have the quality type of people we have at the company. We have a lot of SEALs. We also have a badass lawyer and a State Department guy. So we have a variety of people, and they're all extremely vetted because like I tell people, hey, just because you meet somebody and he's like a SEAL, I'm going to use SEAL because I'm going to talk a little bit of shit. Just because a guy's a SEAL doesn't mean he's squared away. He may have been in the SEAL teams. He may have a huge ego. He may be a dick. He may just be a piece of shit. But you think, oh, he's a Navy SEAL, he's going to be cool. So we vet people all the time, and we make sure we bring in solid people. Right. Kilrain is a very solid person.
Yeah. Right. So that's amazing, and hopefully at one point we get to meet him, right? I'd love to meet him. But active crisis, I know you quickly touched base on at the beginning about some of the services you guys provide, and I want people to know this. I want to draw this line. There's a lot of tactical training companies out there. And they're very good. They do a good job. But I don't want people to think Active Crisis is this tactical training company. It's not. I mean, you guys do that, of course, but you guys are a lot more than that. We had Neil McLean here. Love that guy. Neil, if you're listening to this, shout out to you. Miss you. But he was talking about some of the details of what Active Crisis does. Like executive protection and assessment, the digital stuff. Like you guys do a lot more than just get in the firing line or a kill house and do some CQB and shooting stuff. You guys do a lot more than that. You want to touch on that a little bit?
The shooting and the technical, the CQC and all that stuff, that's the fun stuff, right? Yeah. And we're set up for that. Like I said, we got very good instructors, and we're always still in the game, right? We're not just teaching from, hey, 20 years ago, this is how we did things.
Right.
So we're very current. So that's the fun stuff. Like Neil probably mentioned, we do executive protection, security, things like that. So we have that side of the business doing that. We also have technical surveillance, digital, and all that stuff. So the security thing is huge, Active Crisis. We also do red teaming. We test security.
Yeah. You do a lot of assessment stuff you guys do, right? Security assessments.
Security assessments.
Yeah. Fortune 500 companies and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's what Neil was saying. So if, some big client comes up, like either a house or a building, and calls you, like, hey, you know what? Can you identify some of the vulnerabilities and how should I just protect this place and surveillance? You guys come up with that. You guys provide executive protection to some high-value targets, and you've done that. And And you guys have an attorney, obviously, in your team that advises the company. It is a lot more than just some of the tactical companies that personally. Yeah. I'm utterly impressed. And once you meet the guys, and we met, I think I met everybody but Fred.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And dude, every single one of you guys were just so squared away. That's why, I'm not going to mention any of the clients, 'cause I know that Neil told me about. Like, the fact that you guys got those clients, that just says a lot about the company, that you were able to go out there and just get those contracts.
Each guy, so we're not the same, right? So we got different levels of leadership, different areas that we're working on, and coming together as a team is great. So even the SEALs we all had different experiences, and different levels of leadership, and what we are good at, and we complement each other. So, and as a company, we all complement each other. So it's really nice to have different, I'm not the expert at this thing, but someone else is. Yeah. So I don't have to like read a book to find out, oh shit, they expect me to know this.
Yeah.
And, I'll go back to one thing, like, in the SEALs, like, as you move up, like I remember they used to tell me, hey, Jim, you need to do more admin stuff, or you need to know more about this stuff as you're moving up, right? Because a lot of guys, they took themselves out of the operational side, right? And especially at SEAL Team 6, like you're expected to be a leader in combat, or tactical advisor, or let you guys know these things. And so I used to say like, well, hey, I have, a comms guy that's a chief, and 6 other guys are in our squadron. I got intel chief. I got a supply rep. I got an admin chief and an E6. So I don't need to know. I'm not the expert in those things. So if I need to talk about a test that's coming up, I'll ask the admin guy, hey, when's the next test? Send me the information. I'll blow it out to the guys on email. If there's a comms thing, I'll bring the comms guys. Just like I was saying, like if there's a breaching or a jump thing, I'm bringing that expert in to talk about it. I'm not trying to brief it myself because I may get it wrong. But who's the tactical expert in the squadron? Who is the most experienced guy? It's supposed to be me, right? Mm-hmm. You're the guy. So if I try to fill myself with this admin and comms and all these things, then I'm cutting out the job that these guys have lived their life doing. And then I'm taking away from what I'm supposed to be doing, which is tactics, leadership, manning, things like that. So same thing with active crisis. We have also a leadership seminars that we do. So we could go into corporate or military or police and talk about leadership and mistakes that we've made, red flags that we missed that may correlate to your job. And it's a lot about knowing your people, different leadership styles. And, if somebody asked me, hey, Jim, what's the best leadership style? I'd say it's like a combination of everything. Like you may use one at one time and then another one at a different time, but you need to know them all.
Gotcha.
You can't just go, hey, I'm basically a dictator. I just tell people what to do. Yeah. Or I'm just, I'm the guy that just tells you what to do because the guy above me told. That's not leadership. Right. You need to understand why there's a decision being made, and because sometimes you have to sell it. And just like I said, like there may be something that nobody wants to do, and it has a high chance of failing. Well, you still have some control over that op. And the last thing you want to do is say, hey, man, this fucking sucks. I don't want to do it, but we got to do it. Like what you want to say is like, hey, man, this is what we're doing tonight. I need some ideas of how we could make it more successful because this is when we're going and this is what we're up against.
Gotcha.
So you want to be experienced in that way and also bring people up that have skills that you don't have, not try to answer the mail for everybody.
Gotcha. Man, the active crisis team, it's incredible. Definitely got all kinds of different backgrounds, especially like one of the guys I know, super proficient underwater. You know what I'm talking about?
The capabilities are
capable. They're all qualified and capable. Yeah, that's awesome. Definitely, guys, check out Active Crisis Consulting. I think the activecrisis.com is the website, right?
Correct.
And then the Active Crisis Instagram, I think it's just, that's it, Active Crisis. Yeah, man, Jim, I really appreciate having you here. Thanks for coming in here. Jason, you got anything else to add here?
Sir, thank you for first of all, your service to this country and anything that you possibly have sacrificed. And thank you for pouring into us for the brief time that you had us, That was definitely pretty life-changing. So,
yeah, thanks, guys. It was awesome.
Absolutely. I mean, Jim Foreman, guys, definitely check him out. He's a very, very humble guy.
The most interesting man in the world.
Yes. I tried my best to kind of squeeze as much as I could out of him. But again, he's a lot more than this podcast. much more. So, Jim, thanks a lot for stopping by. Guys, check out cfcontest.com. Good things happen there. Jason's favorite place, I think, pretty much.
I like it. It's cool over there.
Definitely check it out. Again, check out Active Crisis. And that's it. And as Brandon says,
it is time to end. God bless, folks.
God bless.